Welcome back to another spine-chilling installment of Most Haunted Places, a journey into the shadowy corners of history, where tragedy and the supernatural intertwine in ways that defy logic. In this fourth episode, we delve deep into the haunted halls of Oregon's most infamous hospitals, places where echoes of suffering still linger long after their doors were closed. These institutions, once bastions of healing, have become fertile ground for ghostly legends born from despair, illness, and untimely death. Few settings evoke as much dread as abandoned hospitals. The sterile corridors, rusting gurneys, and peeling walls whisper secrets of lives lost and stories left unfinished. Each creaking floorboard seems to carry the weight of countless patients who never made it home, while every flickering light hints at a presence that refuses to fade into oblivion. Whether it's the lingering energy of unethical experiments, tragic accidents, or suicides cloaked in secrecy, these buildings are rife with tales that blur the line between reality and nightmare. In this episode, we'll explore some of Oregon's most notorious haunted hospitals, places steeped in sorrow and spectral activity. From the eerie silence of forgotten operating rooms to the oppressive darkness of subterranean tunnels, these locations harbor mysteries that continue to captivate paranormal investigators and thrill-seekers alike. We'll uncover first-hand accounts from witnesses brave enough to confront the unknown, examine chilling evidence captured by modern technology, and unravel the harrowing histories that gave rise to these hauntings. So dim the lights, keep your ears sharp, and prepare yourself for a descent into the macabre. As we step into the haunted heart of Oregon's medical past, remember, sometimes, the most terrifying truths lie just beyond the veil, and once you cross it, there's no turning back. The Junction City Sanitarium, a legacy of despair. Nestled amidst the rolling hills of Lane County lies the Junction City Sanitarium, an imposing structure whose crumbling facade tells a tale of ambition, neglect, and unrelenting sorrow. Established in 1912, the sanitarium was originally intended as a haven for those suffering from tuberculosis, a disease that ravaged populations across America during the early 20th century. With its sprawling estate, sunlit verandas, and state-of-the-art facilities, the institution promised hope and recovery to its patients. Yet beneath its polished exterior lay a darker narrative, one marked by overcrowding, questionable treatments, and unspeakable tragedies. The earliest reports of paranormal activity at the Junction City Sanitarium date back to the 1930s, when staff began recounting strange occurrences that defied explanation. Nurses claimed to hear faint cries echoing through empty wards late at night, despite all patients being accounted for. Some described seeing shadowy figures standing at the foot of beds, only to vanish when approached. Over time, these incidents became more frequent and intense, leading many to believe the building itself had absorbed the collective anguish of those who suffered within its walls. One of the most enduring legends tied to the sanitarium revolves around Ward C, a wing reserved for terminally ill patients. According to local lore, a fire broke out in this section in 1947, trapping dozens of bedridden individuals inside. Firefighters arrived too late to save them, and the charred remains of the ward were sealed off indefinitely. Decades later, visitors exploring the ruins report hearing muffled screams and the acrid smell of smoke wafting through the air near the site of the blaze. Others claim to see apparitions of burned victims stumbling blindly down the hallway, their translucent forms illuminated by flickering flames that seem to materialize out of thin air. Another prominent figure in the sanitarium's haunted lore is believed to be Dr. Elias Grant, the facility's enigmatic director during its final years of operation. Known for his unconventional methods and authoritarian demeanor, Dr. Grant pushed the boundaries of ethical medicine, experimenting on vulnerable patients under the guise of pioneering research. Rumors swirled about secret surgeries performed without consent and experimental drugs administered without proper oversight. When the sanitarium finally shut its doors in 1968 due to mounting scandals, Dr. Grant disappeared without a trace, leaving behind a legacy shrouded in controversy. Many believe Dr. Grant's restless spirit continues to haunt the basement laboratory where he conducted his illicit experiments. Paranormal investigators exploring the area described feeling an overwhelming sense of dread, accompanied by sudden drops in temperature and the sensation of unseen eyes watching their every move. EVP recordings captured during overnight sessions revealed chilling whispers pleading for help, interspersed with fragmented phrases like, "Let me go," and "He's coming." One particularly unnerving discovery came when a team member set up motion-activated cameras overnight, capturing footage of a pale figure clad in a lab coat standing motionless at the center of the room before vanishing abruptly, despite, or perhaps because of, its haunted reputation. The Junction City Sanitarium has become a magnet for urban explorers and thrill-seekers eager to test their courage against the unknown. For those brave enough to venture inside, the promise of encountering Dr. Grant, or one of the countless other spirits said to roam its halls, adds an element of fascination and trepidation. Yet, as each new visitor steps across the threshold, they must ask themselves, are they prepared to face the echoes of the past? Or will they become another chapter in the sanitarium's macabre legacy? The Salem Psychiatric Hospital. Shadows of madness perched on the outskirts of Salem, Oregon. The Salem Psychiatric Hospital stands as a grim reminder of humanity's darkest impulses. A labyrinthine complex where hope often gave way to despair, and treatment frequently crossed the line into torment. Opened in 1925, the hospital initially served as a refuge for individuals grappling with mental illness, offering therapies that ranged from progressive to barbaric. Electroshock therapy, lobotomies, and prolonged isolation were among the practices employed to cure patients, leaving many scarred both physically and emotionally. As decades passed, allegations of abuse, neglect, and unethical experimentation tarnished the institution's reputation, culminating in its closure in 1987. One of the most pervasive legends tied to the Salem Psychiatric Hospital centers around Room 13, a solitary confinement cell used to house violent or unruly patients. According to staff accounts, the room earned a reputation for driving occupants to madness, or worse. Several patients confined there reportedly took their own lives, unable to endure the suffocating darkness and deafening silence. Today, visitors exploring the derelict hospital describe hearing faint scratching sounds emanating from Room 13, as though someone, or something, is clawing desperately at the walls. Others claim to feel an icy grip tightening around their necks as they peer inside, prompting them to flee in terror. Another haunting figure associated with the hospital is believed to be Margaret Hensley, a nurse who worked tirelessly to advocate for patient rights during the 1960s. Her efforts to expose corruption within the administration led to her mysterious disappearance in 1968. Locals speculate that she fell victim to retaliation, her body hidden somewhere within the sprawling property. Witnesses report seeing a woman in a vintage nurse's uniform wandering the hallways, her expression one of quiet determination. Some claim to hear her voice softly calling out names unfamiliar to modern ears, believed to belong to patients she cared for during her lifetime. Adding to the hospital's haunted allure are the countless procedures carried out in its surgical suites, many of which violated basic ethical standards. Patients subjected to invasive treatments often endured unimaginable pain, leaving behind residual energy that continues to manifest in eerie ways. Visitors describe hearing phantom screams reverberating through the operating rooms, accompanied by the metallic clang of instruments being dropped onto trays. Others report seeing shadowy figures lying motionless on gurneys, their faces obscured by oxygen masks, before dissolving into thin air. Paranormal investigators exploring the Salem Psychiatric Hospital have documented numerous instances of unexplained phenomena. Thermal imaging cameras reveal cold spots concentrated near the solitary confinement cells and the surgical suites, where many of the atrocities occurred. Audio recordings capture fragmented sentences delivered in tones of sheer desperation, such as, "Help me," and "It hurts." One particularly unsettling discovery came when a team member set up EMF detectors in the basement morgue, capturing dramatic spikes whenever they attempted to photograph the space. Despite, or perhaps because of, its grim history, the Salem Psychiatric Hospital continues to attract curious souls eager to confront its spectral inhabitants. For many, visiting the site serves as both a pilgrimage and a reckoning, an opportunity to honor the lives lost and acknowledge the systemic failures that allowed such horrors to persist. Whether you're drawn by the allure of its haunting beauty or the weight of its tragic legacy, The Salem Psychiatric Hospital offers an unforgettable experience where the past refuses to fade quietly into oblivion. The Portland State Mental Hospital, echoes of institutional horror tucked away in the industrial outskirts of Portland. The Portland State Mental Hospital looms like a specter of Oregon's troubled psychiatric past, a monolithic structure whose very name evokes images of restrained beds, barred windows, and endless corridors lined with despair. Operational from 1931 until its abrupt closure in 1992, the hospital housed thousands of patients over 6 decades, many of whom entered seeking solace but found themselves trapped in a cycle of neglect and dehumanization. Its sprawling campus, once bustling with activity, now stands as a monument to institutional failure, where the echoes of broken promises reverberate through empty halls. Among the most infamous episodes in the hospital's history is the so-called Ward 7 incident, a tragedy that unfolded in 1972 and forever cemented the facility's place in local lore. Ward 7, designated for patients deemed beyond rehabilitation, was notorious for its harsh conditions and overcrowded quarters. On a fateful winter night, a fire broke out in the ward, sparked by faulty wiring in an antiquated heating system. Despite frantic efforts to evacuate, 27 patients perished in the blaze, their bodies discovered huddled together in a desperate bid for survival. Survivors of the incident claimed they could hear their deceased peers crying out for help even months afterward, setting the stage for decades of reported paranormal activity. Visitors to the abandoned hospital today describe a palpable sense of unease as soon as they step foot onto the property. The air feels heavy, almost suffocating, and an inexplicable chill permeates the atmosphere regardless of the season. Many report hearing faint moans and sobs drifting from the ruins of Ward 7, accompanied by the acrid smell of burnt wood and singed fabric. Some claim to see shadowy figures stumbling blindly through the wreckage, their hands raised as if shielding themselves from flames that no longer exist. Others describe witnessing apparitions of nurses frantically attempting to lead patients to safety, only to vanish mid-motion when approached. Another recurring theme in the hospital's haunted narrative is the presence of children, whose spirits are said to wander the pediatric wing, a section of the facility long since abandoned. Historical records indicate that young patients were often separated from adult wards, subjected to experimental treatments, and isolated for extended periods. Modern-day explorers recount sightings of translucent figures playing with toys or peeking shyly from behind door frames. The sound of laughter, faint yet unmistakable, can sometimes be heard echoing through the corridor, followed by the pitter-patter of tiny feet running away. One particularly chilling account involves a maintenance worker who swore he felt small hands tugging at his pant legs, urging him to follow them deeper into the building before disappearing entirely. Adding to the hospital's eerie ambience is the basement level, which houses remnants of its original morgue and autopsy suite. Employees tasked with cleaning the area during its operational years described hearing muffled voices and the clinking of metal instruments, though no one else was present. Objects were known to move inexplicably. Tools vanished only to reappear hours later in entirely different locations. A particularly unnerving incident involved a janitor who swore he saw a child sitting silently on an examination table, staring blankly ahead before fading into nothingness. Theories abound that the boy may have been a victim of misdiagnosis or mistreatment, forever trapped in the confines of the hospital's lower levels. Modern-day investigations into the Portland State Mental Hospital's supernatural claims have yielded intriguing results. Thermal imaging cameras reveal significant temperature drops in specific areas, including the pediatric wing and the basement morgue. Electromagnetic field (EMF) meters register unusual spikes, particularly near antique furniture pieces believed to have belonged to original administrators. Perhaps the most compelling evidence comes from audio recordings, which capture disembodied voices uttering fragmented sentences like, "I'm scared," and "Don't leave me." Despite, or perhaps because of, its haunted allure, the Portland State Mental Hospital continues to draw visitors eager to immerse themselves in its storied past. For those brave enough to explore its decaying halls, the possibility of encountering the spirits of former patients or staff members adds an element of excitement and trepidation. Whether you're drawn by the architectural grandeur of its crumbling edifice or the thrill of peeling back the layers of its enigmatic history, The hospital promises an unforgettable experience where the line between the living and the dead blurs, and the echoes of yesterday linger just beyond reach. The Eugene Veterans Hospital, Ghosts of War and Healing, located in the heart of Eugene, Oregon. The Eugene Veterans Hospital stands as a solemn testament to the sacrifices made by countless soldiers throughout history. Established in 1946 to provide care for wounded veterans returning from World War II, the hospital quickly became a cornerstone of the community, offering rehabilitation services, psychological support, and cutting-edge medical treatments. However, beneath its mission of healing lay a darker undercurrent: stories of trauma, loss, and unresolved grief that would eventually give rise to one of Oregon's most haunted institutions. One of the most enduring legends tied to the Eugene Veterans Hospital revolves around the Phantom Soldier, a spectral figure said to patrol the grounds in full military regalia. According to eyewitness accounts, the apparition is typically spotted pacing restlessly near the hospital's main entrance, or standing guard outside patient rooms. Some describe him as a tall man clad in a tattered uniform, his face obscured by shadows but his posture rigid and alert. Others claim to hear the distinct sound of boots clicking against the tiled floors, followed by the faint rustle of fabric as though someone is adjusting their gear. Many believe the soldier represents the countless servicemen who succumbed to injuries or PTSD within the hospital's walls, unable, or unwilling, to leave their post. Another prominent figure in the hospital's haunted lore is believed to be Nurse Evelyn Harper, a compassionate caregiver who dedicated her life to aiding wounded veterans during the Korean War era. Historical documents suggest that Evelyn went above and beyond her duties, often staying late into the night to comfort patients struggling with nightmares or hallucinations. Tragically, she met her end in 1957 when she was struck by a vehicle while crossing the street after an exhausting shift. Since then, visitors and staff alike report seeing a woman in a vintage nurse's uniform tending to invisible patients in the corridors, her movements gentle yet purposeful. Some claim to feel an icy draft pass through them as she drifts by, while others describe hearing soft humming emanating from empty rooms, believed to be Evelyn's soothing restless souls. The hospital's surgical suites, once hubs of innovation and life-saving procedures, have also gained a reputation for paranormal activity. Patients and employees describe hearing phantom screams reverberating through the operating rooms, accompanied by the metallic clang of instruments being dropped onto trays. Shadows flit across peripheral vision, disappearing when directly observed. Some claim to see surgeons performing procedures on non-existent patients, their forms translucent and ethereal, before melting into thin air. Theories abound that these manifestations stem from residual energy left behind by high-stress situations, where life and death decisions were made in mere moments. Adding to the hospital's haunted allure is the underground tunnel system, originally constructed to connect various wings of the facility discreetly. During its operational years, rumors circulated about secret experiments conducted beneath the surface, involving experimental drugs and psychological conditioning. Today, those who dare to explore the tunnels report hearing muffled voices and the sound of footsteps echoing through the narrow passageways, though no one else is present. Objects are known to move inexplicably. Tools vanish only to reappear hours later in entirely different locations. One particularly unnerving incident involved a security guard who swore he saw a group of men in lab coats conducting a meeting around a glowing table, their faces gaunt and weary, before vanishing without explanation. Paranormal investigators exploring the Eugene Veterans Hospital have documented numerous instances of unexplained phenomena. Thermal imaging cameras reveal cold spots concentrated near the surgical suites and the tunnel entrances, where many of the alleged experiments took place. Audio recordings capture fragmented sentences delivered in tones of sheer desperation, such as, "Save me," and "I can't breathe." One particularly unsettling discovery came when a team member set up EMF detectors in the morgue, capturing dramatic spikes whenever they attempted to photograph the space. Despite, or perhaps because of, its haunted reputation, the Eugene Veterans Hospital continues to attract curious souls eager to confront its spectral inhabitants. For many, visiting the site serves as both a pilgrimage and a reckoning, an opportunity to honor the lives lost and acknowledge the systemic failures that allowed such horrors to persist. Whether you're drawn by the allure of its haunting beauty or the weight of its tragic legacy, the Eugene Veterans Hospital offers an unforgettable experience where the past refuses to fade quietly into oblivion. As we traverse the haunted landscapes of Oregon's most infamous hospitals, from the desolate wards of the Junction City Sanitarium to the labyrinthine corridors of the Salem Psychiatric Hospital, striking similarities emerge that transcend individual locations and histories. These patterns are not merely coincidental but reflect universal themes of human emotion, unresolved trauma, and the enduring power of memory. From the wailing wards of hospitals to the shadowed basements of morgues, these sites share a commonality that binds them together in a spectral sisterhood of sorrow and suspense. One recurring motif is the concept of unfinished business. Whether it's the victims of unethical experiments, or the betrayed trust of patients subjected to inhumane treatments, these spirits seem tethered to the earthly realm by grievances left unaddressed. Their presence manifests as restless energy, often communicated through auditory phenomena, cries, whispers, or disembodied voices, that serve as pleas for acknowledgement or closure. This theme resonates across cultures and belief systems, reflecting humanity's innate need to resolve conflict and seek peace, even in death. Another shared characteristic is the role of architecture in amplifying paranormal activity. Historic buildings, with their labyrinthine corridors, thick walls, and hidden alcoves, create environments conducive to isolating individuals and heightening fear. These structural elements act as metaphors for the psychological barriers erected by those who suffered within their confines, trapping emotions such as anger, despair, and regret. It's no coincidence that many reported hauntings occur in spaces imbued with emotional significance: operating rooms where surgeries went awry, basements where bodies were stored, or wards where patients met tragic ends. Lighting and sensory manipulation also feature prominently in these narratives. Flickering lights, sudden temperature drops, and inexplicable odors are staples of ghostly encounters, designed to disorient and unsettle. Such phenomena strip away the comfort of familiarity, forcing guests to confront the unknown. The use of mirrors, a recurring element in stories from various haunted hospitals, adds another layer of psychological tension, as reflections distort perception and blur the boundary between self and other. This interplay of light and shadow becomes a tool wielded by unseen forces, creating moments of visceral terror that linger long after the initial shock subsides. Finally, the prevalence of historical context cannot be overstated. Each location's haunting is deeply rooted in its unique past, shaped by the socio-cultural milieu of its time. The brutal medical practices embedded in the DNA of older establishments contrast sharply with the glamorous yet tragic lives immortalized in urban legends. Yet both narratives tap into broader archetypes of ambition, betrayal, and mortality, ensuring their resonance with audiences regardless of personal experience. By drawing on these universal motifs, these haunted places transform from mere buildings into living repositories of collective memory, inviting us to peer into the abyss of our shared humanity. Thus, while each establishment boasts its own distinct flavor of fright, the underlying threads connecting them reveal a tapestry rich with meaning. These patterns remind us that the supernatural is not so much about the entities themselves but the stories they tell, the echoes of lives interrupted, passions extinguished, and truths obscured. As we continue to explore these haunted locales, we find ourselves grappling not only with the specters of the past but with the timeless questions they raise about life, death, and everything in between. The psychology of fear. Why haunted hospitals captivate us? What is it about haunted hospitals that grips our imaginations so profoundly? Beyond the creaking floorboards and flickering lights lies a deeper allure, one rooted in the psychology of fear and the human fascination with the unknown. These sites, by their very nature, are places of vulnerability. They are where we confront our mortality, stripped of autonomy and control, relying entirely on the expertise of others to heal us, or where justice was denied, leaving wounds that refuse to heal. When these spaces become haunted, they amplify our primal fears, transforming familiar settings into arenas of existential dread. The combination of historical context, architectural design, and the lingering presence of past suffering creates a perfect storm of terror that resonates deeply within us. At the core of this captivation is the concept of liminality, the state of being on the threshold between two worlds. Haunted places exist in this liminal space, bridging life and death, health and illness, hope and despair. This inherent duality makes them fertile ground for supernatural narratives. Ghosts, as manifestations of unresolved trauma or unfinished business, embody the tension of being caught between states. They serve as reminders that the boundaries we construct, between life and afterlife, sanity and madness, are far more permeable than we'd like to believe. For many, visiting a haunted site feels like stepping into a twilight zone where the rules of reality no longer apply, igniting both curiosity and unease. Architecturally, haunted hospitals contribute to this atmosphere of dread through their design. Long, sterile hallways lined with identical doors create a sense of disorientation, while poor lighting and echoing acoustics heighten sensory awareness. These features mimic the psychological effects of anxiety and claustrophobia, making even mundane sounds, a distant cough, the hum of fluorescent lights, feel ominous. The labyrinthine layouts of older structures, with their hidden wings and underground tunnels, evoke feelings of entrapment and uncertainty. Every corner becomes a potential threat, every shadow a possible harbinger of danger. This environmental manipulation taps into our instinctual fight-or-flight response, keeping us perpetually on edge. Cultural influences also play a significant role in shaping our fascination with haunted places. Media representations, from films like The Shining to television series such as American Horror Story, have cemented the trope of the haunted asylum, courthouse, or battlefield as a locus of horror. These portrayals often blend historical truths with fictional embellishments, creating a mythology that blurs fact and fiction. Audiences are drawn to these stories because they reflect societal anxieties about institutional power, systemic injustice, and the fragility of the human mind. Haunted places become microcosms of larger fears, the loss of agency, the misuse of authority, and the haunting specter of mistakes made in the name of progress. Ultimately, the enduring allure of haunted places lies in their ability to mirror our deepest fears while challenging our understanding of reality. They remind us that the past is never truly buried, that pain and injustice leave indelible marks on both people and places. As we walk their haunted halls, we are forced to confront not only the spirits said to inhabit them but also the ghosts within ourselves, the regrets, doubts, and unanswered questions that linger long after the wounds have healed. In doing so, we find a strange comfort in knowing that we are not alone in our fears, that others have walked these same paths and emerged shaken but alive, to tell their stories. As we bring this chilling journey through Oregon's most haunted hospitals to a close, one thing becomes abundantly clear: the spirits of the past refuse to be silenced. Each creaking floorboard, each whispered name, and each fleeting shadow serves as a testament to lives lived, lost, and lingering in the spaces we dare to call haunted. These stories are more than mere campfire tales. They are fragments of history, stitched together by human emotion, tragedy, and the relentless passage of time. They remind us that the line between the living and the dead is far thinner than we might believe, and that sometimes, the most terrifying truths lie just beyond the veil. But why stop here? If these accounts have stirred something within you, a spark of curiosity, a shiver of excitement, I urge you to take the next step. Visit one of Oregon's haunted hospitals yourself. Walk the same halls where spirits are said to roam, stand in the rooms where history's echoes reverberate, and let the unknown brush against your senses. Whether you're a skeptic seeking proof or a believer eager to commune with the other side, these forsaken institutions offer an unparalleled opportunity to confront the mysteries that lie just beyond comprehension. There's nothing quite like experiencing the weight of decades-old despair firsthand, feeling the chill of a presence that defies explanation, or hearing the faint strains of voices from another time. And when you return, share your story. Did you feel the icy touch of a ghostly hand? Hear the faint tap of footsteps in an empty corridor? Or perhaps nothing happened at all, but isn't that silence just as intriguing? Your experiences add to the rich tapestry of lore surrounding these haunted places, ensuring their legacies endure for generations to come. Share your findings with fellow enthusiasts, document your journey, and keep the conversation alive. After all, every whisper contributes to the symphony of the supernatural. Until then, keep your lanterns lit and your courage steady. The spirits are waiting.